Today is the letter M, and we have kind of a lot, and they're like all really big topics. I don't think I realized what a beefy letter M is for relationships. So, shall we just get into it? Okay. So, it's time for relationships and dating from A to Z. The letter M. Ding. Okay. So, money. Of course, this had to come up. So money, the thing you have to know about money is that if you are going to go to that next level in your relationship, if you're going to go to like a marriage or living together situation, that you have to talk about money. And the thing you have to remember when like all of your fears are just like springing up and you're freaking out and you're feeling, insecure because maybe you don't handle money well, or maybe you're worried about saying something to your partner about how they handle money. The thing you have to know is that everything we learn about money is really from our family of origin, right? So you've grown up, whether you know it or not, from the time you were really little, taking in messages about money, and so has your partner. So that's something that if you can both come from that compassionate place of understanding that like your money beliefs are not, they're not, I don't want to say they're not personal because I always say that, but what I'm trying to say is that they're learned. And now you can create new ways of doing things. You can create a new system for your current, for your joint household, but it's also an opportunity for you to say, my parents, they were always afraid of this, this, and this. And, but then they did this. And so I would like to do this differently. And what do you think? And how did you guys handle gift giving and vacations and stuff like that? And then you can actually talk about it. And then it's amazing because you actually feel like you're on the same team and you're kind of like running the same business. So like it or not, that is a reality. Like if you don't actually talk about money and your feelings and your beliefs and habits with money, that will eventually come to roost, and it will affect your sex life. It will affect your friendship with each other. It will affect everything. So you must talk about it. Okay. Marriage. Well, marriage is actually, it's a three-way. It's between you and your partner and the state. And when having children, that is one way that we protect them. Marriage is still, I think, a really relevant institution when it comes to having families. I think what's happening now is that because we've been living in this forever after paradigm, and there is a high divorce rate, and I don't really think it's 50%. I think it's actually like 35 or something like that. Marriage is its relevance is being questioned. And it is still our sort of greatest public step that we take with each other with our friends and family to say that we are committed to each other. It is, and it's a beautiful institution. Like but again, it is an institution. It is a contract. It is a civil contract that you're entering. So that's why when it breaks up, lawyers get involved and protective measures are in place for children, for family, for support, all that stuff. So yeah, I'm not really sure what the question is. Is it I want to get married and they don't? Yeah, that's a really big deal. I think that you have to figure out what marriage means to you in that case. What does it mean? Does that give you a sense of safety? Do you actually think that if you get married, this person's going to be more committed to you than if you weren't married? That would be my question. And if so, is that true? And what is your partner afraid of? If they're afraid to get married, what is it that scares them about that? Are they afraid that suddenly they're going to feel trapped, or that there's no creativity left in the relationship, or that, the other person might stop trying? So that's what you have to kind of suss out, is like, if it's one of you is afraid of marriage, then yeah, those are the questions you have to ask. So, musicians. Well, this is a really interesting one, because when you date a musician or an artist or a director, particularly musicians though, because here's what's interesting. Let's take somebody like Prince. He's always my favorite example. In this, Prince started learning instruments when he was, basically out of the womb. And I think by the time he was 15, he was writing. And so you figure, I don't know, 40 years of writing, a lot of days, thousands and thousands of songs in his vault, right? At least a couple thousand, if not more. Incredibly prolific, right? So what does that mean? What was going through his mind? Like, what was he basically a conduit for? What was he channeling all of the time? And how present can somebody be with you when they're in that space all the time? Now, that doesn't give them a pass to be not present with you or not let you know that you're special, but it's something that you have to take into consideration when somebody's a writer. You know, people are often, it's funny because Mark was actually thinking about a piece of artwork. He was working on something and then we went out and he's at dinner going, I can't stop thinking about, you know, that piece of artwork that he was working on. So and that's something that if you're going to date artists, writers, musicians, that's something that you have to really have a certain amount of compassion for, or maybe it works for you to have more space in your relationship where you give each other time to be creative. So that can be, but it's not something that's likely to change. So if you're dating a musician or an actor who is really focused on getting their career going and they're kind of unavailable because that is sort of the primary focus of their life, yeah, they're probably not going to be the best at that point in their life. I'm not saying ever, okay? And I am a big fan of artists. They're my type. You really have to get real about where they're at in their life and how present they can be with you and how committed they can be to family, marriage, anything else that you might be wanting at that time. And again, for some people, it can really work. I can tolerate a decent amount of space in my relationship. So if somebody's really busy with that stuff, it's okay with me to a certain degree, as long as I feel in whatever other way that is expressed to me as far as like feeling special and feeling like I matter and feeling like the relationship is important. So challenging musicians, they are. Okay. Mother-in-law. Mother-in-law. Oh man. You know, the mother-in-law thing comes, where that issue usually comes up is in the like being on each other's side piece. And it's really difficult because when you're creating your own family, you're creating your own traditions, you have your own little pod, because see, we all kind of separate out into our little pods, then you're struggling with who to be loyal to, right? And I think we have to give each other, again, when we're in the same way that when we have those conversations about money and where we learn our ideas about money, we got to give each other a little bit of grace with our family relationships. And it doesn't mean that you should be, your feelings or your opinions or your reaction to, say, your mother-in-law should be disregarded in any way. I think it's, but it can be a really clumsy line to walk when you're trying to please your mother and your spouse. And so I think that the question you have to ask yourself, let's say if your mother-in-law's bothering you and you're not sure, like, you don't know if you like how your spouse is handling it, I think that you have to ask yourself, okay, what would make me feel understood, you know, where my feelings are validated, and what would make me feel like my partner's on my side? Enough. Okay. Compromise, right? Relationships are compromise. Messaging or massaging. Massaging, I highly recommend. Messaging, my one very strong opinion about messaging is that Snapchat is hell for dating. You don't know if that person has messaged you or everybody else. They can figure out your location. You can see each other's locations. Like, you know, where you're like, oh, he hasn't texted me back, but I know he's over here at the market. It's like, oh my God, that's too much information. That doesn't leave any room for any kind of normal courtship. I mean, it's crazy. And oh my God, just get off Snapchat if you're dating. Just go from, say, follow me on Instagram to like texting. Can we just do that? Can we just skip the whole Snapchat thing? Because that just, oh my God, it makes me crazy. I can't tell you how much pain and sorrow and tears I've like heard about over Snapchat. Okay. Monogamy. Oh, there's a hot button. Monogamy is harder and harder to define. in the same way that infidelity is harder and harder to define these days. It's interesting because the choice to be non-monogamous has sort of historically been with couples that have been married longer and are maybe like trying different things to like make their marriage more interesting over time. But more and more young people are considering themselves polyamorous, which even in that's not, there's still, I guess it wouldn't be monogamy, would it? It would be like binogamy. The different arrangements that people have in regard to sexual fidelity and the concept of planned non-monogamy, there are like as many different definitions of that, it seems, as there are couples. It's for some people, they still consider themselves emotionally monogamous, even if they're not physically monogamous. Or it's like, well, we're monogamous, except that you can play with the same sex partner because I can't be that for you, or whatever. Like, there's so many different things. But the most important thing overall is that you have to decide what it means to you to be sexually monogamous. And if that's an important part of you feeling partnered and like a team, and for you feeling safe emotionally. So it kind of doesn't matter what the rest of the world is doing. What really matters is that you and your partner define monogamy in the same way that we've talked about. You really kind of have to define infidelity, because the critical mass, the paradigm is shifting around all of this so much so quickly that it's bringing up more complicated conversations, even like on first dates. You know, I've had women go on first dates and the guy's like, so by the way, I can't be monogamous. And it's like, the reaction to that is, so you're already telling me that I'm not enough for you? Like, because they don't really understand it conceptually or where he's coming from. And so, it's a pretty intense subject. And so I think more and more we are going to be challenged around it, and we're going to be, forced to really define ourselves and our feelings around it. So, monogamy. Interesting. Multiple orgasms. Some women have them, some women don't. Even some men have them. There's a wonderful book called Come As You Are by Dr. Emily Nagoski. And I think the most wonderful thing about her writing and her work, she has just been incredible. An incredible contribution to women and men in understanding female sexuality, because the biggest question she gets is, am I normal? And she's like, yeah, 99% of the time, yeah. And that's what's so shocking to people. There might be a medical issue or might be something else, but the range of experience and emotion and arousal and eroticism and everything. Oh my God, her studies are so extensive. But the most important thing to take from all of it is that you're normal, whatever you're experiencing. Now, maybe you want to experience something more. Maybe you want to learn how to have multiple orgasms. That's great. That's going to take some real communication with your partner. And a lot of trust. Anytime anybody wants to expand themselves or grow sexually in a relationship, it requires a lot of trust. You want to feel safe, right? Because safety, not feeling safe, is the thing that's going to shut you down first and foremost, male or female. So, okay, Match.com. I'm a big fan. Met the love of my life on Match.com. Kind of hard to argue with that. But again, Match.com, like anything else, is a place to meet people. Okay. Don't date somebody online for 6 months. Okay. You're not the game. It's not a video game. There's people behind these pictures. There's people behind these avatars. You still need to get super intentional about what you want and what you want to experience in relationship, so that, that which you're putting out to you can come to you. So, and I think dating sites are wonderful in that you can narrow, for age and location and kids or no kids and want kids or no kids, all that stuff. So, it's brilliant. Minefields. They don't clear up on their own, do they? Minefields, I would say they often require third-party help, Because if you've got minefields, so to speak, in your relationship, like there's certain topics that you know you can't touch. Those are the wound attraction areas, okay? You probably picked each other, whether you know it, to work on this particular repeating wound, right? Somebody, you know, can say, your partner more than anybody, right, can say that one thing that really sets you off, or that, you know, and the problem is that when you start living in fear of your partner because of these minefields and you start walking on eggshells, love and fear can't exist in the same space, right? So that's how we kind of kill the love in relationship. We get afraid of each other. We get afraid to like be who we are. We get afraid to say what we need. We get afraid to talk about certain subjects because we know that that person's going to just, you know, get unreasonably angry and there's going to be this wedge between us for 4 days or whatever it is. So, minefields, I would say, before you feel like you've got a foot out the door in your relationship, I think before then it's time to get third party help. That's what I would say. So, masculine energy. Masculine energy, and of course there's a lot of schools of thought on yin yang and masculine, feminine, and all that. When I talk about masculine and feminine energy, I'm not talking about male and female. Okay. Masculine energy it's linear, it's goal oriented, it's leading, decisive. Masculine energy is grounding, whereas feminine energy is fluid. What am I trying to say? That it's fluid and receptive and nurturing. So all of us have both masculine and feminine energy. And when we feel intense attraction romantically, particularly physically, romantically, whether or not you're male or female, doesn't matter. If you have a polarity in your masculine and feminine energy, that is the attraction, right? That's that magnetic attraction. And so, because so many of us have to operate in the masculine all day long, because that's really what's valued on the planet. That's what's valued out in the external world, is to like get things done and solve problems. And, you know, technology is very masculine. And we're out in the world, even giving is masculine, right? So we're giving, doing caretaking all day long. We have not been nurturing our feminine, which is the receptive, playful, fluid, creative part of us. And so when that gets out of balance, that's what's so difficult. It's like sometimes we don't know how to do this dance with each other because men and women are both having to go out in the world and operate in the masculine all the time, right? And men know when they get home, they're like out of balance. They're like, I don't want to solve any problems. I want to like go play. I want to go hang out with friends. And women are struggling with really learning how to be receptive and not problem solving all the time. So masculine energy is something that if you find yourself frustrated or craving that, then you're probably also not nurturing that part of you that needs to be receptive. So, I mean, and that's quite a bit of the work that I do with women, is really helping them step back and allow themselves to be receptive and to take what's being given to them. It's challenging, and men experience that challenge as well. So I hope that was helpful. My daughter came in the middle of it, so I got a little distracted. Sorry. Okay. M is also for music. Okay. Bye-bye.